Hello, everybody, and welcome to Books in Hindsight. I'm your host, author Matthew Hines. Today, we have the lovely Kelli Cooper. Kelli Cooper is an author, and she is a life coach. She teaches people about how to work the law of attraction, but not in the way you've heard about it before. Kelli has a realistic approach, and we're going to hear more about it in a few minutes. Now, before we get started, I just want to please encourage people, go to patreon.com/hindsight and sponsor this channel along with my other channels. You can also go to Books in Hindsight and buy one of the books by any of our guests, or go to hindsight.com and just pick up any one of my great books. All of these things will help the Books in Hindsight channel to stay afloat and to keep commercials off of Books in Hindsight. All right. So with that being said, and I have to ask you, please subscribe on iTunes, on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you see this podcast or hear this podcast. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment on YouTube. All right. With that being said, let's bring out Kelli Cooper. Let's go to the phone.
Welcome to Books in Hindsight, the only podcast where hindsight is always 2020. And we explore the great books, works, and ideas of the century. Now, here's your host, teacher, and author, Matthew Hines.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Books in Hindsight. As I promised, I have Kelli Cooper. Now, Kelli Cooper, she is the author of a 5-book series. We're going to talk about 2 books today, and we're going to be talking about the law of attraction. So Kelli Cooper describes herself as a solopreneur. She says that the law of attraction has helped her in her life. And so we're going to talk to her today about her books, about how she got into this, and what her plans are, and of course, what her process was for writing the book, and what she does because if you look at her website, and her website is actually livelifemadetorder.com. Kelli is a coach. She's a life coach, but I'm going to let her talk more about that. So Kelli Cooper, it's great to have you on. Welcome to Books in Hindsight.
Hi, Matthew. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk about all this stuff today. You have a great energy, and I can tell you're enthusiastic about the subject matter, and that's always makes for a fun conversation. So yeah, for me, in a nutshell, with the whole law of attraction being kind of my focus in the whole personal growth arena, once I started paying attention to my inside world and saw the outside world, what it looked like, I started seeing a lot of connections between the two. And I was like, well, this is interesting. And as I started changing the inside, trying to believe things that were a bit more empowering, felt a little better to believe. When I started seeing myself in a different way, when I started focusing my attention more on what I wanted rather than what I didn't like and what I didn't want and what I didn't want to happen and what I don't, not, resist, my world started changing. And I was like, the evidence of personal experience, is very powerful in our lives, especially anything personal growth oriented. And I was like, yeah, this whole law of attraction thing, there's something to it. But what I started to realize as I got deeper into the teaching was I thought there was a lot of misconceptions about it that either led people to dismiss it altogether, just kind of sounding like some hippy dippy, new age woo-woo stuff, or just some new tool that someone made up somehow and invented, or they believed in it and they resonated with this idea of this being some sort of universal law. but they just were not having any luck in applying the information in their lives with any real success. So I started to see that there was a bit of a gap between the theory of the law of attraction and the theory of conscious creation and the actual reality of it in our lives as humans. So to me, I try to bridge that gap, taking into account, all the human factor in this process, our limiting beliefs, our fears, our skepticism, our doubt, conditioning, and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's just a topic in particular I'm just very fascinated with, given my own experience with it.
Okay, Kelli, so let's go back over something that you said. So initially, you were inspired to get into the law of attraction because of things that were happening in your life, and you are saying that they were all negative. Now, my question is, do you feel that those were manifested by you, or were those just circumstances that you found yourself in? And
I think, I'm sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off before you finish. No, I think we create everything in our reality on a logical, rational level. I think it's hard to understand. And when I say that we create and we attract our experience, this is one of the things I like to stress, because this is where I think you can kind of lose people sometimes. I think the process of manifesting our life experience is neutral in that we're not being rewarded or punished for our positivity and negativity, whether or not we're a good person or a bad person, we do good things or we do bad things. I think it's a very neutral kind of mechanical clinical process. So yeah, I believe that anything negative that happens to us, or the things our mind judges as negative, it'll label various situations as bad or negative. I do think we attract them, but by that, I just mean neutral, like we're putting out a certain energy and we're attracting experiences to us that match these frequencies of our vibration somehow. And yeah, it's not any kind of punishment. It's not karma in that sense. So goes around, comes around. But yeah, I do believe we just attract stuff based on our predominant thoughts, our predominant feelings, how we view the world, how we see ourselves. That kind of puts an energy out there. There's an emotional charge to all of that. And I think what you're putting out there predominantly, you just get things back to you that feel like those same feelings that you feel most of the time.
The old, what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
I
think of it in that way, but in like a neutral way, not in like a reward punishment way. But yeah, what you're putting out there just comes back to you. But like, yeah, I think in like a neutral way, to me, it's just feedback of, to me, your whole outside experience is just feedback of like your inner world. And then once you get a sense of the connection there, you can go within and change the inner world, and then the feedback changes automatically. It kind of has to.
Okay, so can we just say then in our discussion that the connection between our inner world, our inner self, our inner psyche is absolutely related to the outer world?
Absolutely, yeah. I think this is something intuitively a lot of people like resonate with, even if they haven't thought about it very much before or like paid attention in their own life. I think when you hear a lot of spiritual kind of truth and spiritual laws and spiritual principles, like there's a part of us that's like, yeah, I kind of know that. And yeah, I think there's something resonant about that, but understanding how it works on a logical level with our minds, we'll probably never be able to kind of untangle it and parse it out to that degree. But yeah, if people start paying attention, they'll start connecting these dots rather quickly. And if that's something you believe in, even just a little bit, like a little bit of part of you is like, yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe there's something to it. Start going within and start paying attention. And I think you'll find it's a very interesting journey. And once you start, you'll keep doing it because you'll start to see like it's true. And you'll be like, oh, if I have this kind of ability to influence things, like I want to keep doing this because I have to wake up and live my life every day. And if I could do stuff to make it better, like why not?
Okay, so that's a good way to get into talking about your books. Now,
yeah.
Your first book is Making Sense of the Law of Attraction series because it's not just one book, it's 5 books, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wrote a series of books a few years ago. I put them on Amazon. Yeah, they're not super long books. They're not in depth. I would say they're probably like supersized blog posts, maybe like 6,000 to 10,000 words. But yeah, I put that series out because I thought it was a good way to maybe introduce my work to a broader audience, like putting something on Amazon, like, on online marketplace, can't think of a better place to put it. So yeah, I wrote the books as a way to kind of introduce kind of my perspectives on the teaching. Because like with any spiritual topic or personal growth topic, people are kind of saying the same thing in a bunch of different ways, but everyone kind of has their own spin, their own kind of idea on it. And yeah, so for me, I just thought I like the idea of kind of putting together a little short series of books to kind of outline my view of the teaching and yeah, what I thought was important to focus on.
Okay, so the title of Kelli's book is Making Sense of actually it's 5 Misconceptions. I probably have this wrong, so correct.
Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, the series is Making Sense. Yeah, no worries about it. But yeah, the Misconceptions, that's the first book that I wrote, yeah.
Yeah, so 5 misconceptions about the law of attraction. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is we're going to try to get a definition, because I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've seen The Secret, and if you haven't seen The Secret, it's on like Netflix. That's where I saw it. It's about how basically what Kelli's talking about is manifesting your own reality. And it sounds great. It sounds really nice. But as Kelli says there, it's kind of confusing. And what we're going to do today, thanks to Kelli, because she's written a book about the misconceptions about the law of attraction. And she's also written 5 books, but we're going to talk about 2. The other book is called Get Out of the Way and Let the Universe Do Its Job. So we're going to be talking about those 2 books today. But I saw The Secret. So I want to ask you, first of all, I mean, you're talking about attracting things, and it seemed on The Secret, it was all focused on money.
Yeah, you know what? I saw the movie. I don't remember it super well, but I am familiar with the format. I know they interviewed a lot of like spiritual teachers and personal growth teachers that I think talked a lot about like the law of attraction in particular. Yeah, I think, the law of attraction, understandably, most of us were drawn to the teaching where there are things in our outside experience we feel we're lacking and we would like money or relationship, or, you want a new job, certain experiences or whatever. And so, yeah, it's this idea of, your energy creates your reality. So, yeah, this idea of energetically, you're able to align with things that you want in your experience. But yeah, and it's not just physical things. It's, I like to say the law of attraction is about a lot more than getting just stuff. You can want it for stuff. That's fine. It's okay to want to attract things that you want. There's no reason not to have these things in our experience, and it's okay to want them. But yeah, you could, so the idea is, but with the law of attraction, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is when we talk about attracting, especially things you don't have, like money, it's kind of, and I think The Secret too, the way it was presented, which The Secret is great because it brought the teaching mainstream, but I think it was very basic kind of teaching of it, which is you got to start somewhere. But I think one of the misconceptions is the law of attraction is not a tool that you just weren't using before in your life, and now you can use it to get what you want. It's a universal law that's always been operating in your life. So the one thing you want to really understand if you're interested in this particular subject matter is you have always been creating your reality this whole time. Affirmations, vision boards, they're great for activating energy, knowing that your energy creates your experience. This knowledge, knowingly activating beneficial energy is really good for you, but that's not the law of attraction, So that's, I think, a big thing to think about is just remember you are creating your whole time, and it's not about a tool that you use to manipulate your reality, essentially, is how I think most people view it. And I would say, be careful not to view it that way, because you'll fall into a nasty trap pretty quickly of trying to control your reality by using the law of attraction. And you'll find it's not working, and you'll get very frustrated very quickly.
Well, yeah, that's what I kind of looked at it as, is it just kind of sounds to me almost like it's promising the same things as religion does. I mean, you don't like your life. Things aren't going the way you want more money. Well, if you look at, religion, that kind of offers the same thing. Also, it offers things in the next life as well. But and I guess I'm not talking about all religions. I'm talking about Americanized,
Yeah.
religions where if your life is going bad, it's basically because of you. You're not doing the right thing. So you're basically saying that you need to change the way you think. You need to change the way you look at life, and suddenly life will go better. And I've never heard anybody, except for you, Kelli, say that, no, that's no promise that things are going to get better. And that was one thing about The Secret that, of a couple of things I saw that I just kind of said, well, okay, first of all, these people all make a living selling books and telling you how good life is. So the more they talk about how good life is, the more books sell, and they sell to people whose life is not that good.
Yeah, I think, personal growth is tricky because obviously most people, you're drawn to this path. You're in some kind of pain. Something's not going well for you. And it's okay to want to make those improvements. But yeah, I think what happens too with the law of attraction is because people see it as this tool to manipulate reality, they go into it with this kind of desperate hope of like, well, if I say some affirmations, my life will change. And here's the thing. If you're in a bad situation, there's no reason it can't improve for you. There's no reason to struggle with money. There's no reason to be alone if you want to be in a relationship. All of these things are available to us. But yeah, I think what happens is people go into the teaching with kind of an unrealistic idea of what the teaching is. And they just think like asking the universe for what they want and sitting around desperately waiting for it to be delivered. Like, no, that's not the law of attraction. You have that responsibility to like change your energy, take responsibility for your life, but not blaming yourself for the bad things that happened. It's not your fault. You didn't do it on purpose. You didn't want it. But yeah, I think what happens is people get they get very focused on trying to change the outside and getting something they don't have, which is okay. If you want something you don't have, it's okay to want it. But then they're not paying attention to anything inside. They're not taking responsibility for their life or their energy or their belief system. And so the energy that created all of their unwanted circumstances, all of the chaos, all of the whatever, the financial problems, the bad people that you attract into your life, none of that energy is getting looked at. And then people are thinking, well, why is nothing changing? Well, it's like the reality you created with that energy is the same. So it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So it's like the most important thing, which is to kind of look at your energy now. Like people kind of skip right over that and they get to, well, let me affirm new money into my reality. It's like, yeah, that's a great idea, but that energy stands no chance against the energy you've had the last 20 years that has kept you broke. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's kind of my thing, is trying to get people to recognize you need to kind of know what you're working with when you're starting this journey.
Okay, so yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit later, but so let's talk about how you got into this and how did this, I assume that it affected your life because you seem to believe in it.
Yeah.
How did it affect your life?
Well, I'd say, like most people, I got into personal growth. Like I said before, I got into the LOA in particular. Things weren't going so great. I wasn't doing so great. I figured there has to, be a better way. Like I said earlier in the call, right? We get up and we live this life every day in this human experience. We're in this body. We're out in the world interacting. It's like trying to make it the best we could be. It's like that made sense to me, to try to make it better. So, my husband, my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, he had introduced me to like LOA stuff in particular, like when we had first met. And this concept of your reality being created by your mind, I'm sure it's something that I was aware of, perhaps, but like it's not something I really thought about. And, once I started doing it, like I started manifesting more money. I set out, I had this vision for the type of life I wanted to live. And at the time I was nowhere near, like logically, you would not ever know like how this would ever come together. But like step by step, as I kept working on my mentality, opportunities manifested, ideas manifested, inspiration manifested, solutions to problems manifested. So yeah, like I said, it was just, when you start doing this work and when you start seeing the changes in your own life, that personal evidence, that personal experience is such powerful evidence. And basically what happens is as you start getting that evidence, you'll just keep going, and your energy will change in bigger and bigger ways. As more evidence manifests in your own life, you believe bigger and bigger things are possible for you. And yeah, it's a really exciting journey, but it can be challenging at times. But if you're willing to accept that, it's actually not so hard and it's not so bad.
Okay, but you're talking about you have to actually do things, right?
Well, yeah, there's action in the sense of we're here having this physical experience. So like we're going to want to take action, and it would probably be boring if we didn't. But what I would say to people is the law of attraction, right? It's not about withdrawing from your own life and then waiting for God or the universe to come in and give you everything you want. You will participate in the process in some way. So what I would tell people is, though, action isn't what creates your reality, in the sense that your action is a manifestation of your belief system, is a manifestation of your thoughts and feelings. So in that sense, your energy is driving you to do certain things. So your energy will always be responsible for your results. And sometimes that energy will manifest as actions that you feel inspired to take. And when you feel inspired to take them. Don't get attached to any results, but just maybe enjoy the fun of the inspired action for the fun of it. But yeah, you will take action, because you have to recognize like certain things won't happen unless you take an action to make it happen. Like you could visualize and work up your energy about being a successful podcaster all day long, right? But like nothing's going to happen unless you come up with a name for your show, decide what you're going to talk about, and start recording it and getting guests. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's you're going to take all sorts of action, but it's just realizing your energy is always going to be the cause, like the root of your results.
Okay, so then let's go back to something that you talked about almost at the beginning, and that was you talked about vibrations, that we all have a unique vibration. And this is, I mean, it's part of physics now. And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's it's not like, something that's really that far out there. But so
no.
if I have like and I imagine there are low vibration people like myself, and I think you probably would be a high vibration person.
Yeah, it's interesting with vibration and frequency. I personally use those terms sometimes because they're very ingrained in this sort of subject matter. But I tell people too not to get too caught up with that, because like you said, there is a sciencey aspect to it, so people can read about it if they want. Like everything's energy, right? And there's like a vibration of like positivity vibrates higher and lower. But yeah, so something I like what you said about high and low vibration. I really wouldn't look at it like that. It's like kind of an accurate way to describe it, but it's almost like an oversimplification. I don't know if you could have, and I think too, the way the human mind works, like high is good, low is bad, high, low, good, bad, like all of this stuff. But yeah, so I wouldn't think too much about that. When you think about vibration and frequency, I would tell people, if you feel confused by that, like don't worry about like you don't have to understand that. I would say think of your energy, your frequency, think of just emotions, think of how you're feeling. And that's kind of a shortcut, at least to me, to all of that. Think about your emotion having an energy to it and like buzzing around. Like happiness is high and light and buzzy, and depression might be low. And you can try to visualize it maybe, but essentially I would say just tune into your feeling and don't worry about all that vocabulary unless you're interested in it and you want to, learn more about it. But yeah, I would say just worry about like it's essentially your emotional state is creating your reality, like the emotion you're emitting.
Okay, but there's I said vibration. Maybe I should have said frequency. But
it's kind of almost the same. I feel like there's nuance. Like technically, they might be the same. So yeah, the idea of like, and you're talking about like science and stuff. I personally don't read as much about the science aspect of the LOA. I know a lot of people like to, because it's kind of like people that are like fighting for the cause. It's like kind of like proof to them, like the science and the quantum physics and all that. So I do find it interesting to a degree. But yeah, the idea is essentially, right, like everything is energy. Like even stuff that seems solid, right, is actually energy and like separate particles kind of bouncing around together just very slowly, and it seems solid. So yeah, the idea of if everything's energy and has a frequency that's, like you said, high or low, just for lack of a better word, and to humanize to try to put our human mind to something that's beyond our understanding. So it's like, yeah, so then it's like, if you think of the frequency and it's high and low, then everything that represents a high frequency to you, you feeling that high energy, you'll manifest the stuff that feels that way to you. So when you think about vibration and frequency too, think of it as more of like what the energy of the things represent to you. Don't think of, well, what's the frequency of the new car I want? How do I vibrate at that? And it's like, no, you don't need to worry. It's more about like, essentially it's just worrying. It goes back to like, think of your feelings as, the energy of your feelings, like that's the energy you're putting out there, your emotion. And it's like, you feel good, you're vibing high, quote unquote. You feeling bad, you're vibing low, quote unquote. But then it's like, don't stress too much moment to moment how you feel, because that probably will make you very anxious.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Now, just to go back to this frequency thing, Brian Greene, who's the big string theory guy, says that basically all matter, you get down, you keep tearing it apart, and you just get down to these strings of energy that are vibrating at a certain frequency, and it's that vibration that makes something gold or silver or carbon or whatever. But it all boils down to the frequency at which that thing is, or that ultimate the basic substance is vibrating. And so down to it, there's no such thing as matter. It's just all vibrating strings according to Brian Greene. So if you think along those terms and then you apply, well, we're made up of this so-called matter that's vibrating. So
exactly
at some point, so my question is though, and I know you say that it doesn't matter what your vibration is it possible, or I don't want to say vibration, let's say frequency, is it possible to change our frequency if, maybe a high frequency is better? Is it possible to change that?
Well, yeah, it's because if you think about if you think about all of that as just emotion, like emotional energy, yeah, because that's like, if you think about a human vibration, what is that? That's our thoughts, feel, right? It's all this inner world stuff, like stuff of our mind, like intangible. So it's like, yeah, if you're vibrating in a certain way, and again, I want to tell people, like, don't stress too much about like, well, what am I vibrating now? What about 10 minutes from now? Like, kind of think big picture here with like how you feel generally, because moment to moment, day to day, as a human, you're going to dip, you're going to have your peaks and valleys, right? But yeah, it's essentially your vibration as a human is essentially your emotional content, and your emotions are your decisions that you've made about the circumstances in your life. You've told a story about them and you feel this way about this thing, and this way about your parents, and this way about your ex-husband, and this way about this experience, right? So it's like, our emotions are basically based on the stories our mind is telling about our experiences in the present and past, and perhaps in the future, what may or may not happen. So yeah, you as a human have complete power to change your vibe, because your vibration is your emotions as a human, and your emotions are, you decide your feelings about. So yeah, you change the story, you start changing the story about your life, the stories about yourself, your feelings will change. And if your feelings change, your energy changes automatically, sure. So yeah, there's hope for everybody. It doesn't matter what you're vibing now, what's happened. If you think I'm this type of person, I'm angry, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, whatever type, none of it's really true in that sense. And yeah, that change is possible for anybody, sure.
Okay, so let's say I'm living in a ghetto and it's dangerous. There's violence and there's drugs, and I'm in danger all the time, and I'm in poor circumstances. When I think of like when I watch The Secret, I say, well, what do you say to these people that are just in such impoverished or in another country? Like I've seen, and you're gonna, well, you won't see it. I know that you're going to Oman. You won't see it so much there, but around the world, I mean, I've seen plenty of people that just have a shack with a dirt floor, and that's what they live in, and they burn wood to keep warm. And so what do you say to, I mean, they all want to be rich. They all want to have a.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's interesting you bring up that example, right, of like, the extreme, right, the poor people and all of that. And what I might say is, to be honest, I might not be the person to deliver these messages to people like that, because as someone that lives in a first world country, my experience is very different. I'm more general personal growth oriented, like the first world person. Like, you're not trying to just survive. You're not living in the hut, in the shack, in the dirt floor. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, all of these spiritual principles, if I were to think how God thinks, I would say the same thing to anybody in any circumstance. But am I the best messenger for certain people? Probably not. So I probably personally would not say anything about that. I would say generally, if I were to think how God or the universe, to see the world through God's eyes or the universe's eyes, God or the universe would never see anybody incapable of changing their circumstances based on where they were born. Like, God would never be like, anything is possible. Oh, but you were born black or you were born a woman. Sorry, tough break. Right. But as a first world person, to say that about the third world people, it's like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, but if I had to talk in the most general terms, I try to see things as God or the universe or infinite mind would see them. And I would say to anybody in any circumstance, anything is possible. But would I go to those people and say it personally to them? No, probably not. It's like the messenger sometimes I think needs to be someone that's like more like you, and you could understand better what they're saying. But no, generally, yeah, I think that what we see in the world and the different challenges people have in different parts of the world, whether it's poverty, war, anything, we're collectively as humans, I think we're creating it. And it's not real in the sense that it's real that it's happening and we're doing it, but it's not real in the sense that all of this turmoil and chaos and poverty and horrible randomness speaks to the true nature of reality, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I think anything is possible in the sense that all the limitations we see with our human eyes aren't real, in that that's not the true nature of reality. At least what I think that.
Okay, well, yes, that makes absolute and perfect sense, and that's absolutely not the answer that I expected. But yeah, you're right. You probably would. People in those situations would need somebody that are in that situation to.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I'll admit, as someone in this line of work, you do come up against that challenge because you're talking about all of these things. And like any human, yeah, there are certain things I've experienced that have been tumultuous in my life and I have personal experience with. And then there's lots of things I don't have personal experience with. And when you're bringing up that question, that's really excellent, because it's like, yeah, that stuff is like so extreme. And it's like kind of like what I was saying. I'm someone that in my station in life and where I am, I imagine the type of people I'm attracting are other people similar to me in that they're first world. They're not in pure survival mode. They're not living in a war-torn country. They're doing okay for themselves, and they're just a growth-oriented person, right, that wants to improve their lives. Now, that's not to say I don't attract people from other sorts of life circumstances that don't enjoy my work. I do. I get messages from people all over the world, and I do feel like I do connect to people that are not just like me. But yeah, generally speaking, I think sometimes the messages are more powerful. Like a man telling a bunch of women, you can do anything, that's not going to sound as powerful from a straight white man maybe as another woman telling it, or a black person telling it to more black people, or a gay person telling it to other gay people, or transgender to another transgender person. So yeah, it's like it can be more powerful, coming from certain people, but sometimes you want to get your messages out there and people think who are you to say something, but then it's just kind of, it's like a risk you take when you put yourself out there like that, I guess.
Okay. Well, yeah, you are so insightful. So I just want to throw this in. This is Kelli Cooper we're talking to. Her website is livelifemadetorder.com. That's livelifemadetorder.com. And Kelli is a solopreneur. And Kelli, I would assume that along with your books, which are Making Sense of the Law of Attraction series, 5 Misconceptions About the Law of Attraction, and your Get Out of the Way and actually Get the Heck Out of the Way.
Yeah.
Say that HE double hockey sticks on a podcast, but Get Out of the Way and Let the Universe Do Its Job. Those are your 2 books. So are you a coach?
Yes, I do coaching services. I do private sessions with one-off sessions, just one call if you want to have just a single session. I also do package calls with people that want to work together more extensively. Yeah, the personal coaching I really love because it can really cut your learning curve to be able to talk to someone one-on-one about, especially inner issues and spiritual, that can be sticky and icky sometimes. And, having someone to kind of talk it through is always helpful. And yes, I offer coaching services. I sell a lot of products on my site that are audio courses that tackle like more specific areas of the teaching, like relationships or business, for example. And so I'm all LOA if you're interested in the teaching, especially if you're interested in it from a deeper angle. Not just getting stuff. It's okay to want stuff. It's fine. But if you're more interested in that deeper transformation just to benefit from it in your day-to-day life, that's kind of what I like to talk about a lot too. So yeah, I would say if you found this interesting, this interview, you'll find my site very, very helpful, I think. And there's lots of content on it.
Well, I'm sure I've actually talked to a couple of people about doing this, just casually mentioning it. So, they say, I've got to listen to that because a lot of people are into the law of attraction now. So you've said a couple things that I need to ask you about. So
sure.
Talk about, I saw in your book, in the first book, you talked about God and Buddhism. And you talked about how the manifesting your reality is in the Bible and in Buddhism. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Kind of what I was talking about there was I was just kind of making a general point about the idea that this concept is not like a new thing. So I think what happened was when The Secret came out, it was like the law of attraction had been written about in books and things like the 70s. You had like the Seth, it was, but I feel like it really brought it mainstream. And I think what happened was people got this idea, kind of like what I said earlier, like it was kind of this like new idea making the rounds in personal growth circles, this thing called the law of attraction, where you just ask the universe for what you want, or you make a vision board and then you get it. And then it's like, so yeah, in that sense, I was just trying to illustrate the point of this idea that your inner world like influences your reality. Like, it's just that this is an idea that's been around for like a very long time. Like Buddha talks about it. Jesus Christ talks about these ideas of your mental world creating your physical reality. So yeah, that's really the point I wanted to make with a lot of people is like, because The Secret kind of brought it it's like the LOA and The Secret kind of came synonymous. And yeah, just kind of getting like introducing the idea to people like, yeah, this idea is not some new like idea that like people like made up like in like 2006. I was like, this is something like, this is an idea that people have been talking about, like really wise people for like a really super long time.
Okay, so Kelli, you really, I'm watching you and you really are, I'm a teacher and you seem like a fantastic teacher.
Oh, thank you. I'm passionate about it, so it's fun. Yeah.
What's your background? I mean, before you got into this, and do you like, are you working with people like you go to their homes and work with them, or you work
no, I do everything online remotely. I travel a lot, so doing things in person really wouldn't work. Maybe perhaps if I ever settled down one day in an area where I think I would have a lot of in-person clients, that would probably be fun to do. But yeah, everything I do now is virtual online. And before I did this, I wasn't doing anything spectacular. I had been kind of interested in personal growth, and I read books and I did stuff, but I've had a very typical life in the sense of I went to college for 4 years. I majored in a liberal arts major that like I did nothing with. I got an office job. And then I quit my first office job. I went to teach English in Japan for about a year. And that kind of opened up a whole new world for me. That got me thinking about life in a very different way. But yeah, and then, I worked a couple more regular jobs before I decided like I wasn't going to do that anymore. And yeah, it was a bit of a bumpy ride for a few years in between there. But once I started, I started freelance writing and I was able to travel and earn income remotely. And yeah, that's kind of what I did up until I started my blog. The freelance writing was like the last thing I had done before that. But yeah, nothing special or I wasn't professionally trained in anything or had any kind of like fancy job. I was just kind of doing the normal thing. And I was just like, yeah, I kind of want to do something else basically. And I just decided I would. It's really a decision. It sounds simple, but that's really all it is you just decide, yeah, I'm going to try this.
Well, it's great. And yeah, this is so interesting just to hear you talk about. So going back to this religion thing. Now you mentioned God. So is there kind of a religious aspect to what you're doing?
I wouldn't say religious. I would say more spiritual, because to me, I think of religion, I think of like identifying with like a specific faith, and I really don't. I find they all have something interesting to offer, and they all have their interesting teachers. But yeah, I would say there's definitely a spiritual aspect to this, because like I said, to me, it's not like a tool to manipulate reality. Like the law of attraction to me is like one of the spiritual laws, like a universal law. And this idea to me that's spiritual about it is that like the universe, God, infinite, people have different words for that force, like whatever term people are comfortable with. I say just like insert it and like use your word and it's fine. You do make it whatever you want. But yeah, I think there's something spiritual, because I think the universe or God, I think whatever that is, it's an energy of love, that we're loved and supported, and God sees us as perfect and his children or whatever. And I say I don't mean God in the sky type God, but like, I feel like we're limited by language. So to me, this idea that we're loved and supported, there's a spiritual aspect of that. Like there is something beyond us. But the way I think it differs a bit from how people might look at it from a religious standpoint is, like I said before, I think the process of attraction is like very neutral and mechanical. I don't think you're being punished or rewarded. Like the idea of judgment to me is like a human thing. And whatever God is, I personally don't think it's doing that. But yeah, so there's that love and that unconditional support. But I think in order to reap the benefit of this way of looking at the world, we have a responsibility to manage our energy. You kind of have to believe it works that way to be a beneficiary of this way of operating. So yeah, I think in that sense, so I think it's different, at least how I see it, it's different in the sense that I don't think this God human relationships, kind of like that parent-child relationship that it might be seen as in religion sometimes. I don't think it's like that. But yeah, I think it's spiritual in the sense that we are connected, and we are connected to that force, and we're all one, and we're loved. And by tapping into that and believing that life works that way, life becomes very easy for you, and things happen easily, and actions you take are easy, and you're no longer swimming upstream, and you feel like you're not alone. And to me, that's the best feeling of this teaching. Made me feel like I wasn't alone, and I liked that.
Okay, I wrote a book that kind of touches on this stuff. It's called Deceptions of the Ages, and I quoted Einstein, who said that everything is either a miracle or it isn't.
Yeah.
And so, and this is what I think. So, and I think that you would probably agree with me. So if I want something, like I want to get a college scholarship for basketball. Like you said, I can't just sit at home and pray that I'm going to get a basketball scholarship. I have to actually go out and do the work. So that is what the Protestants used to say: God helps those who help themselves. I
like that. Yeah, I do think that, because I think that, we're not expected to earn what we want by trying really hard to get it and suffering to get it. But yeah, there's something about taking the initiative to try to improve your own life that, yeah, energetically, I think that's powerful. And I think that you will receive assistance, not because you're being rewarded for your initiative and God is like, you did a good thing by not being lazy. But yeah, energetically, our actions are manifestations of energy. So yeah, when we take those actions to help ourselves, we're sending out an energy of like, yeah, I'm trying to solve this problem. I'm trying to get moving in the right direction. I'm trying to work towards this thing I want. And yeah, you'll find like energetically that opens up doors, and you'll get all the resources and support you need to help make those things happen. So yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment 100%.
Okay, so when somebody comes to you and they want you to coach them, is that the correct term? You're a coach?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody comes to you, and again, okay, so going back to this thing about everything is a miracle or isn't, it sounds like from The Secret that, well, you just tell the universe what you want and you'll get it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not really what you're saying. And so I buy into what you're saying much more than I accept that, because if something happens and you didn't do anything to work for it, that is a miracle. And I don't see any other way to describe it, because everything has to actually be worked for. So how do I come to you? How do I approach you? What circumstances am I in?
Well, I think for my typical client would be somebody that, like any other human being, you probably want stuff. You want a relationship, you want to improve your finances, you want to improve your health, you want to lose weight. You know, we all have things we want in our physical reality. So yeah, if you're interested in working with a coach that focuses on conscious creation, you probably want something, which is fine. But my ideal client, it's almost like they want what they want, but they're beyond. It's almost like getting the stuff is secondary to the emotional transformation and the healing of whatever icky gunk and whatever pain is making them want what they want probably in the first place, and hoping it'll make this pain go away. So yeah, so my client is somebody, you have stuff you want and you have a vision for your physical human life. Awesome. That's fine. But you're really focused more on making the inner transformation, not getting something you don't have, which to our mind, it sounds like I'm saying the same thing with two different sets of words, but energetically, those are very different things. So yeah, I have clients that they're interested in applying this teaching for outer transformation, but what they're really interested in is that inner transformation and really living the miracle of alignment in day-to-day life, where like everything just kind of goes more smoothly in day-to-day living, and that sort of like deeper work on it. So yeah, I would say for me, that's the type of client that would get the most out of my perspectives and like what I would tell them to do on a day-to-day basis.
So are you going to, if I hire you as my coach, are you going to make me do things? Are you going to make me change my life?
I can't make anyone do anything. I'm a facilitator. Like your journey is inward and I help facilitate it. I can give you, like, if I have a client, for example, I can give them suggested actions during our phone sessions. Between our phone sessions, I give them homework to do during the week. But no, am I ordering them around and telling them what to do to change their life? No, because they're adults and I can't make them do anything. And if they want my help, I can help them with something. But yeah, essentially, I'm facilitating an inner journey. And this work is really all about themselves. I'm not doing anything for them. I'm not some guru that has manifesting secrets that like I'm holding hostage for cash and I only give them to people that pay me to coach them. Like that is nothing like what I'm doing. You know, I don't have any secrets. I'm not telling people how to do anything because manifesting is not an action. There's really nothing you need to learn how to do. I just help people recognize what's happening inside of them and help them rearrange those insides in a way that will make them like what's happening outside better, essentially. And if they're ready to really do that in like a serious way, then I can help them do that in a serious way.
So are you talking about having people, you're coaching people to change how they see things?
Exactly. I'm coaching people to change their inner world. So for me, I'm not the coach you would come to for the goal setting and the external action. I could help you with that a little bit maybe, but that's not really what I do. I help people with the inner transformation and then what they feel compelled to do outside. That might come while they're working with me together. The being paves the way for the doing. But yeah, I'm really, for me, my work with clients is really about inner work. Yeah, essentially they're doing the inner work for outer change, which is fine. But yeah, I'm not really focusing so much on their outer world and what they're doing and how they're doing it. I'm not telling them how to raise their kids or manage their money or to treat their health problems. I'm helping them recognize energetically what's happening inside of them so they could get a better understanding of how that's affecting their life. And then they could change what they need to change to make things better.
All right. Well, that's good. Kelli, this has gone so fast. I have so many questions to ask you, but let's go back. We talked before we started the interview. We had talked a little bit about kind of metaphysical stuff, and we talked about the abilities that the mind has. And so you're basically saying that you have this amazing machine, and you're just coaching people into how to use it correctly, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. It's like, so for me, it's like the way I see it is in this journey in my own life, I learned certain things that benefited me greatly. And especially with like the law of attraction, because it's such a simple teaching, but it could require a lot of explanation because like our mind is so involved in the process and it wants to know what about this and how does that work? And so you can like try to explain it to a very limited degree. But yeah, so it's just, it was fascinating to me, and I love to help people understand it better, so they can actually apply this information. Because if your energy creates your reality, I can't think of a better thing to focus your conscious attention on. So if I could help people do that more successfully, that's a very satisfying thing to me.
Okay, that's great. So Kelli, I just want to throw this back in. We've got a few minutes left. Kelli's website is livelifemadetorder.com. Kelli is a solopreneur, and she is a coach, and she helps people out in understanding their situation through the law of attraction. So we're basically talking about, Kelli, before I ask my final question,
yes,
do you have anything you'd like to say before we finish?
The one thing I would say is for anyone out there like interested in this teaching and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed of like, well, what do I try to attract first? Or what do I do for this or that thing? Remember, at the end of the day, no matter what you want, you're after a feeling. Like everything we want is because we think it will make us feel a feeling our mind thinks is a good feeling. Everything you don't like, everything you don't want to happen in the future that you're resisting now, the only reason you feel that way is because these things feel a way you don't like to feel. Everything is always about our feelings. So remember, at the end of the day, like, especially if you're not sure about what you want, you actually might be in an advantage because you won't get too attached to specific things. Think about how you want to feel in your day-to-day life. How do you want to feel with money? How do you want to feel with relationships? How do you want to feel with your body? How do you want to feel generally? Start there and then see where you feel inspired to go from there, because that's going to get you to like the root of like what you're actually after, is if you kind of think about how you want to feel.
Okay, so you are talking about creating through your feelings. You're talking about you can create your own reality.
Sure, you can create your reality if you remember the true source of your control is managing your energy, not rearranging outside circumstances exactly the way your mind wants them. Sometimes it'll look that way, sometimes it won't. Ultimately, you can't control that. But if you can control your energy, your belief system, which is the only thing you can truly control, stuff is going to show up that's going to mirror it back to you. And in that sense, you have a great deal of control. But yeah, just remember your control is inside. You can't control outside. And so don't try, and you'll save yourself a lot of time.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. So we're just about at the end of our discussion here. I hope it's okay to talk about this. So you're going on a trip. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, sure. We can talk about whatever you'd like.
Okay. You're going to Oman.
Yes, I am. We're leaving on Saturday.
Okay, great. And I met my wife in Oman. I spent
Cool.
7 years there. I've written 2 books about the country. So you are going to be in the lovely town of Nizwa.
Yes, we are. We'll be house sitting for 2 months for an American. She lives there. She's a teacher, and I guess it's their some kind of break or something. So yeah, so she'll be going back to South Dakota for a couple of months. We're watching her cat.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. How did you pick Oman?
You know what? What's interesting is we do a lot of house sitting, my husband and I, and it's kind of like, I look at the website basically and I see listings for different jobs. And like, I'm just like, oh, that seems really interesting. You don't see a lot of house sits in the Middle East. UAE is probably the most common. You'll see a lot in like Dubai because there's a lot of like expats there. But, we just saw it and I was like, would you want to go there? I'm like, that seems pretty cool, because we had done a house sit in Doha a couple of years ago in Qatar, and the homeowners there had told us, you need to go to Oman. It's beautiful. And saying it was just because Doha, I wasn't very impressed with. There really wasn't, I felt like there was like no culture. It was not really much going on. So they're like, yeah, Oman's very different. And, yeah, so when I saw the house sit, we applied and she picked us. So I'm like, yeah, we'll go. So yeah, the house sitting has brought us to a lot of interesting places that I might not think to go if I was planning my own trip there and like having to pay for it.
Well, all right. How did we get a hold of you for house sitting? Maybe somebody wants to get you guys for that.
Yeah, I can give you my email and I could send you a link to my profile on the main site that we use. But yeah, it's fascinating. So yeah, I'm really excited to go there. It looks interesting. Niswa looks beautiful. The mountains surrounding it, and
you've never seen anything like it. You're right at the foot of what's called I can't even remember it, but there's a place up there called Jebel Akhtar. There's Jebel Shams, which is the mountain.
Yeah, I've read about that. Like one's the kind of like the Grand Canyon, right? One of them.
Yeah, and I used to go up there. I mean, it's developed now. I used to go up there when there was nothing.
I can imagine.
Villages up there, and that's what my books are about. Because I wrote my books because I said, you know what? They're going to develop all this, and nobody's even going to know what this was like.
Yeah.
You're just going to love it. And I hated, that's always been my second home. And so I'm a little bit jealous you're going to Nizwa. You're in the interior, but you're about an hour, I think, away from the Emirates. So you just drive through the desert for about an hour and you're into the UAE. So
oh, that's cool. Yeah. I remember she mentioned being by the border there. Yeah. It looks really cool. And we'll be there for 2 months. So it'll definitely get a chance to like know it. And she had said, and other people had said too, that had been there. My husband he traveled blogs and he has a lot of people that had, so yeah, I've been there before. And they just said the people are very, very friendly. So that should be nice.
Yeah. You've never seen anything like it. But one of the reasons that you're being asked to house sit is that, you know, they will break into somebody's house. It's not that they're that kind of people, but you know, they have bad apples everywhere. And so if they know there's nobody in a house, and I saw this when I lived there too, that, you know, the kids just say, well, we'll just get in and see what they have. So
yeah,
not necessarily to steal, but you know, there's no such thing really as personal property. It's kind of a foreign concept.
Yeah, we did a house sit in Fiji, and they told us it was kind of a similar thing. Like if you were gone, people would just come into your house and just like use your stuff and take it. But yeah, and it was like technically they were stealing it, but to them it really wasn't stealing. So yeah, I kind of get some cultures are just kind of like, it's kind of more like community property almost.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I don't want to keep you, Kelly. This has been so enlightening, but before you go, we have to, of course, do our business. So Kelly's books, she's got 5 books out, and we're just talking about the 2, but the first one is Making Sense of the Law of Attraction series, and it's 5 misconceptions about the law of attraction. And Kelly's second book is Get the Heck Out of the Way and Let the Universe Do Its Job. And then Kelly has 3 other books that are all available on Amazon at Kindle, and they're also available on my website. The links are there for on Books in Heinessight and at heinessight.com. And then if you want to get a hold of Kelly for any reason, your mail is on your livelifemadeToOrder.com, right?
Yep. It's Kelli, Kelli, at livelifemadeToOrder.com. And you can just shoot me an email, and I answer them pretty quickly, usually within a few hours.
Okay, so Kelly, it's been great talking to you. Yeah, I encourage you to get a hold of Kelly, and I encourage you to take a look at her books, because I think they're going to kind of inspire something in the people that read them. And the people that go farther can, of course, use Kelly for a coach. But Kelly, it's just been great talking to you. It's so enlightening.
Same here. Thank you for asking me.
So
yeah, thank you.
Luck in Oman. If you're bored, get my year in Oman, or
I think I might do that, because I'm sure living there so long, there's lots of good information in there that would be very useful for me.
Well, I went to every place there is to go. So you can buy any other book that's your, and it's also a romance and everything in one. So
I love it. I can't wait to read it. I'm sure it's great. I think I will be purchasing it. So yeah, thank you so much for the interview. Thank you for asking such great questions and being a great podcast host. And I had a wonderful time.
Me too, Kelly. So thanks a lot. And for everybody out there, don't go yet, Kelly. I want to talk to you before you go, but for everybody else out there, I just want to tell you goodbye. Please subscribe wherever you see this. We're on let's see, what's the list now? iTunes, Sketcher, Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio, as well as you'll see this video on YouTube. So everybody, please keep on reading.
This has been Books in Hindsight with your host, Matthew Hines. Please join us for our next podcast and look for our archives on iTunes and go to thehindsight.com. That's HEINES site.com for great books by Matthew Hines and other great authors.